Good morning, friends. Today we will talk about another topic, gender multiple intelligence. Now, this topic tells us that how male and female differentiate on the gender, discriminate on the intelligence dimensions, the phases. So, first we will talk about some development of the gender, then I will come to the part of the intelligence. Now, number of lectures we have taken on the simply intelligence, but this topic is confined to gender multiple intelligence. Now, let us start. Children move towards full understanding of sex category, constancy as they grow older is clear. But how precisely do they acquire such knowledge? Now, the children become very well aware that the male and the female, the gender discrimination is there, but how actually they acquire this knowledge, we will talk about. Only then we can understand that how on the different dimensions of the intelligence we find the differences between the male and the female. Several contrasting but not necessarily competing explanations have been offered. One of these, social learning, emphasizes the role of learning, especially the impact of modeling and operant conditioning. According to this theory, children are rewarded, for example, with verbal praise for behaving in accordance with gender stereotypes, and gender roles for behaving as boys and the girls are expected to, because further children have the tendency to imitate models they perceive as being similar to themselves. They tend to adopt the behavior shown by their parents, Bandura 1986 and Barron 1970. Now, how there is a gender discrimination? Now, this theory, this view, where the main dominance is of the Bandura and Barron, they call it a social learning theory. They said that we come to know that this is the, though in the present era, present time, we cannot say that this work is done by the male, this work is done by the female. Now, all the work which is done by the male is done by the females, and the work done by the female is done by the males also. Now, earlier we used to say that cooking is done by the girls, the ladies, but now if the international chefs are all males. Now, the girls are driving aeroplanes, they are driving rails, they are doing all the works which we are doing. But this topic we are considering from intelligence point of view and the social learning point of view. So, Bandura said that it is the social roles which discriminates between the male and the female. When a work assigned to the male is done by the male, we say, well done, you have done very good. It is a verbal praise. When a girl does a better cooking, we say, very good, it is a very yummy dish. We appreciate the girl for the dish, and her interest or her work, interest goes in that area. So, they say because socially we are assigned the type of the jobs and we get the verb praise. This is the earlier theories. I am again telling you, earlier theories, not the present time, but still it happens. So, that social rewards gives us this thing. Now, second, sometimes we behave according to the model. Model means whom I consider my ideal. Now, a female consider model mother or any female person, and you consider model as your father. You consider, if the girl consider mother as her model, then she starts behaving like the mother. So, either it is a modeling or we are getting praise for the social roles which are assigned, which are given by the society. So, that discrimination between the two emerges. This was the view of the from social learning point of view given by the Bandura and the Barron. This is a view. A second view of gender development is cognitive development. This theory suggests that children's increasing understanding of gender is just one reflection of their steady cognitive growth. For instance, below the age of 2, children lack a clear concept of self, so they cannot identify themselves consistently as a boy or a girl, They can do this and begin to show gender constancy. Gradually then, children acquire the understanding that they belong to one sex or the other, and as a result of this understanding, strive to adopt behaviors they view as consistent with this identity category. Cognitive development theory suggests that they first develop their gender identity and then adopts behaviors consistent with this identity. Now, what does this theory says? Now, this theory says that first you develop gender identity, whether we are the boy or the girl, male or the female. Then we adopt those behaviors which are consistent according to that gender. Up to the age of the 2, the child is not able to develop the self identity. So, no discrimination between the male or the female, whether the baby is the boy or the girl. But once this identity is developed, then we start discriminating, and this theory says when you develop this identity, male and the female, then you start behaving like in that direction. So, this view is known as the cognitive development theory. Again, I am repeating again and again, these are the views which were given by the different theorists earlier. Now, the third and highly influential view which came in 1984-89 given by BEM, a third and highly influential view known as gender schema theory has been proposed by BEM. BEM noted that knowledge of one's sex or gender is far more important than knowledge that one has blue or the brown eyes. BEM says that the brown or the blue eyes, it is because of your heredity. That is not important, but gender schema theory, that means we are from this sex or we are from that sex. This is known as the BEM's theory of general schema. This reasoning led her to propose that children acquire, what is the BEM's view? This reasoning led her to propose that children acquire gender schemas, cognitive framework reflecting children's experience with their society's belief about the attributes of male and the females, such as instructions from their parents, observation of how males and females typically behave, and soon. Gender schemas develop in part because adults call attention to gender eve in situation where it is irrelevant. For instance, teacher says, "Good morning boys and the girls." Why teacher doesn't say, "Good morning guys, good morning students"? When we say, "Good morning boys and the girls," we are discriminating the sense of the male and the female. So, this view says that male and female, this schema, what the society is expecting, the social roles which are expecting, we start discriminating between male and the female. Now, Florence Nightingale, you know, the mother of nursing, you know, we worship Florence Nightingale like anything. If you have observed the earlier, you have seen the earlier, not this generation, you talk to your grandparents, most of the time earlier, the nurses were female, because the females have more nurturing role. They are more having more caretaking, mother has more caretaking. But now this discrimination has gone and the male and the female, both nurses are available in the hospital. So, what we are talking about? We are talking about the earlier views which were given to us. So, this view schema theory, they say that this differentiation has come because of the demand of the society, expectation of the society. Once a gender schema forms, it influences children's processing of many kinds of social information. For example, children with firmly established gender schemas tend to categorize the behavior of others as either masculine or feminine. This masculine and feminine has come from where? This gender schema. This is the role of the male, this is the role of the female. Again, I am saying, nowadays our daughters are winning gold medals in Olympic Kushti, they are boxing, or Mary Khan, a big name, you know. Nowadays the time is changing, but the earlier theories used to believe that because of this discrimination, the society's role, once you develop the gender schema, then you will be able to decide the masculine and the feminine roles. Similarly, they may process and recall behavior consistent with their own gender schema more easily than ones not consistent with it. Those behaviors which are told by the schema, told by the society that this is the male, this is the female, you are more comfortable with that, you are more consistent with that. Otherwise, you are those who are not consistent with you, you will be comfortable in those works. In short, for children, possessing such schema as gender is a key concept or dimension, one they have often used in attempting to make sense out of the social world, and one that becomes linked in important ways to their self concept. As a result, differences in a interest and intellectual ability is observed. So, I have told this view is background because once we come to the intelligence, we must know that whether gender discrimination is there or not. So, there are certain theories which I have explained. We talked about Bandura, we talked about Bem's gender schema theory, we talked about cognitive development, where how the gender discrimination occurs we have just discussed in the last 10 minutes. Now, the question is, do male and female differ in intelligence? Is there any difference in their IQ, difference in intelligence? This is a big question. Sex differences in human intelligence have been a topic of debate among researchers and scholars. It is now recognized that there are no significant sex differences in general intelligence, though particularly subtype of intelligence varies somewhat between sexes. Now, it is a debatable matter. It is a controversial matter, debatable matter, whether the IQ of the male and the female is equal or one is better than the other. It is a debatable matter. Number of people have done work and doing the work, but in general, we say that male and female are equal in intelligence. That is, there is no difference. The null hypothesis, if we form null hypothesis means zero hypothesis, that the girls and the boys and the equal intelligence, this has been verified. But researches also show that there are certain categories, subcategories of intelligence we will talk about, where we find difference in male and the female. But in general, it is said that there is no difference. While some test batteries show slightly greater intelligence in males, other shows slightly greater intelligence in females. Now, when I say test batteries, what do I mean? Now, there are certain tests which have their subparts. It is not a single homogeneous, there are some parts. When the subparts combine a test, it called battery. For example, Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale. In Wechsler Intelligence Scale, it is a battery. We have verbal, we have memory, we have spatial, we have reasoning. You come to the Bhatia battery, the Indian test constructed by Chandramohan Bhatia. Now, it has number 1 Coase block test, then Alexander pass along, then pattern, third is pattern drawing, fourth is picture completion, and the fifth is your immediate memory. So, if you have to know the IQ of the person, you will have to give all the 5 subtests, all the 5 test scores when you will combine, then you will be able to know the IQ of the person. So, such tests are called batteries. So, you should not confuse the term battery, that is why I have just explained clear what is the concept of the battery. So, some battery says that the males are doing well and some battery says the girls are doing well. That is why I have just said it is a debatable, controversial matter. In particular studies have shown female subjects performing better. Now, some studies shows that females are doing better where female subjects performing better on tasks related to verbal. Some research indicates that male advantages on some cognitive tests are minimized while controlling for socio-economic factors. Some research says that the female are doing better on the verbal, whereas the male are not. It has also been hypothesized that there is slightly higher variability in male scores in certain areas compared to female scores, leading to males being overrepresented at the top and the bottom extremes of their distribution, though the evidence for this hypothesis is inconclusive. Now, some research says that if you say the normal distribution curve, in some areas the boys are coming in the higher and in some areas the boys are coming in the lower sides. Whereas, in some researches female are coming higher on the one side and bottom on the other side, because if you go to the normal, I am not explaining normal distribution curve. If you divide the normal distribution curve, there is a +1, +2, +3, -1, -2, -3. Then the +1 showing the higher area, and what is normal distribution curve? It is a bell shaped curve where the mean median mode is lying at the same point, there is central point. So, if you divide central line +1, 50 +1 34%, 50 + 34 84, and if you go to the -1, 50 - 34. So, these some researches are telling us, but again the result is inconclusive. We cannot say with the confidence that the boys and the girls are doing better or not in that area. Abilities such tasks as naming synonym in the subtest, synonym, words with the same meanings. What are synonyms? Word with the same meanings. And the verbal fluency. What is verbal fluency? For example, naming words that start with a given letter. You say M, mango, man, multiple, this is word fluency. So, abilities such tasks as naming synonyms, that is words with same meanings, and verbal fluency, for example, naming words that start with the given letter, females score higher than the males on college achievement tests in literature, spelling and writing, Stanley has found. Such differences are relatively small and seem to be decreasing, Feingold 92 has said, but they do appear in a very careful meta-analysis performed on the results of many different studies. What is meta-analysis? Meta-analysis is a statistical analysis that combines the result of multiple scientific studies. So, if you see these results, some say the girls are doing better on the verbal, they say, some says no, male are doing better on the that area. So, if you do the meta-analysis, again the results are not conclusive. We can't say in which area which is better. In contrast, males tend to score somewhat higher than the females on visual spatial tasks such as mental rotation or tracking a moving object through space. Law, Pellegrino and Hunt 1993. Now, these authors in 1993 has found that males are doing better on the visual spatial tasks. Spatial tasks where you have to do on the work of the direction, the place, the space. Now, some researchers say female doing in the better in the verbal, some researchers say male doing on the spatial. Again I say the results are not confined, they are not conclusive. Additional findings suggest that some subtle differences may exist between male and females to various aspects of intelligence. For instance, consider the study of Silverman and Eels 1992. These researchers asked male participants to perform several tasks in small office. In one condition, participants were told to try to remember the location of the various objects in the room. In other, no mention was made on this task, where the latter asked to name the objects and indicate their locations. Women outperformed men in both conditions. Now, they did study, Silverman and Eels did a study in 1992, in which the sample was male and the female both genders were taken, and they were confined to a room and they were asked to remember location of the objects in the room. There were certain objects lying in the room, clear. In other, no mention was made on this task, that it was not mentioned that what is lying and where. Now, the results show that the females, when later asked to name the objects and indicate their location, women over the female did better than the men in both the conditions. Now, other studies in contrast indicate that men are better at finding their way back to some physical location after taking a complex route away from it. Now, some say that males are doing better in this area. What accounts for this observation? Silverman and Elas, whose experiment we have just studied, suggested that such gender differences may reflect different kinds of tasks performed by females and males during the evolution of our species. Before the development of civilization, now what is the explanation of Silverman and Eales? Before the development of civilization, human lived by hunting and gathering. Men hunted and women foraged for edibles. Silverman and Elas suggested that these tasks required different spatial abilities. Gatherers, primary females, need to be able to notice edible plants and to pinpoint their location so that they could find themselves again in the future. Now, they say it is due to the evolution of our generation, our society, the human race. Now, earlier, the men used to hunting, they go in the fields and doing the hunting, and the females edible plants by which they can prepare their meals. So, they say it is because of the evolution by which these differences are found. In contrast now, hunters, mainly males, need to be able to find their way back home after crossing large distances. Now, when you go for the hunting, you have to cross in the forest large distance and they have to come back to their place. The result, that means knowledge of the spatial space. The result that two psychologists suggested is that men are better at tasks such as rotating objects in their mind, while women are better noticing and remembering specific objects and their location. When the specific object where the edible plants are, that the woman did better, and where reverting back, you have to come back, space is important, the men did better. We can't do experiments on the evolution of our species. Now, we can't do experiments on that. However, so we can't know for certain. Now, we can't say with a certainty this happened. In any case, it is clear that a few differences exist between male and females where certain components of intelligence are concerned, but that these differences are small in size and small in nature. So, this difference is small, not that significant, and we can't now evolution, how we can do the experiment is not possible. Now, Gardner, there are so many theories of intelligence. Spearman say general factor, specimen factor, specific factor. Thurston says 7 factors primary mental abilities. Then Kettle say fluid crystallized intelligence. Then so many theories of intelligence has come. But one theory which is given by Gardner, that is known by the name multiple intelligence theory. That means Gardner believed that there are various types of intelligence. Now, we will see that theory and whether we are founding gender discrimination on these factors or not, we will talk about. Gardner theory of multiple intelligence divides human intelligence into 9 different types instead of looking at a single ability. He deemed intelligence as the biopsychological potential for processing information. Their theory claimed that human beings have different ways in which they process data, each being independent. So, they say there is not a single, there are multiple theories by which we work, and they talk about these 9. Actually, earlier It was 7, that 2 were added later. I will tell you which were those. The 9 type of intelligence described by the Gardner are: number 1, musical rhythmic intelligence; number 2, visual spatial intelligence; number 3, verbal linguistic intelligence; number 4, logical mathematical intelligence; number 5, bodily kinesthetic intelligence; number 6, naturalistic intelligence; number 7, interpersonal intelligence; number 8, intrapersonal intelligence; and number 9, existential intelligence. Now, number 6th and number 9th in this serial order which I have just written, it is not a sequence, it is not a chronological order, you can put in any way. Now, naturalistic and existential were added by Gardner later on. Earlier he talked about only 7: musical, visual, verbal linguistic, logical mathematical, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal and intrapersonal. Now, before we say that, on which there is a gender discrimination, we must try to understand what is the meaning of these intelligence. So, in a very brief, I will tell you the meaning of these intelligence, type of the intelligences. Musical. Musical intelligence refers to appreciate, understand and create music. People with high musical intelligence have sensitive to rhythm, pitch and melody. So, those who have, they are sensitive, the sensitivity is more to pitch, melody, rhythm, they are more able to understand the music, enjoy music, that is called musical rhythmic intelligence. The second is visual spatial. It refers to understand how people are oriented in space. It involves the ability to perceive and manipulate visual images and objects in space. People with high spatial intelligence are adept to mental visualization, spatial reasoning and have a strong sense of direction also. So, he says, Gardner says visual spatial also, Thruster also talks about spatial, where you have the sense of space, direction, right, wrong, left, right, north, south, you know that which is the proper place to put in the space. You architecture, people are doing that. You might have seen, now you have the system in the car which tells you the direction. Earlier drivers, they do not have any system. Once they go to the route, they remember now where to, it is now this way or that way. So, that is he called as the visual spatial intelligence. Number 3rd is verbal linguistic, simple. This type of intelligence involves the ability to language effectively, both in spoken and written forms. They have sensitivity to the meaning, sounds, etc. So, whether you are able to understand the language, synonym, antonym, whether you know the meaning of the sounds, whether you know the meaning of the verb, you have the meaning of the vowel, you know what sound is this, that is called as the verbal linguistic ability. Then 4th is the logical mathematical ability. Logical mathematical intelligence refers to the ability to reason logically, detect patterns and think abstractly. How you think abstractly? What is how logically you can solve the problem? Abstract thinking means how you are able to understand the symbols, plus, minus, right, wrong, whatever they are. That is called abstract intelligence. Bodily kinesthetic, it involves ability to control one's body movements and handle objects skillfully. How you can move your muscles, ability to move your muscles right way. For examples, you might have seen actors, how they are moving the muscles of their face, dancers, how they take the expression on their face. The sports person, we usually say that cricketer, simply by putting the pressure on the wrist, the ball went to the boundary. Badminton player, all muscle control movement. Your gymnastic, this is called kinesthetic ability. Then naturalistic ability to recognize the patterns found in the nature like plants, animal, natural phenomena, that means you are towards the nature. Interpersonal, sensitivity to others and understanding emotion of others, whether you are able to understand the emotion of others or not. Interpersonal, understanding one's emotions, just to understand your emotion, in which mood you are. Existential, ability to see the big picture of the human race by asking question, what is life, what is death, what is the ultimate reality of the human existence. Now this is called as the existential intelligence. Now the researchers have found statistical significant difference for verbal, bodily kinesthetic, existential, musical, naturalistic, interpersonal, intrapersonal according to gender. Males are found to be superior on logical, mathematical and intrapersonal intelligence, whereas female are found to higher score on musical, interpersonal, existential and naturalistic. But again I am saying these are inconclusive. These are inconclusive. We can't say with confidence that whether on any area the women are better or the males are better. But since gender discrimination is found in some of the studies, so in this lecture we have tried to summarize that whether on multiple intelligence what are the gender differences. This is all about today's class.